Everyone, I will totally change the topic of the session, and I will talk about robot-assisted procedures, and more specifically, procedures that are implementing magnetic manipulation of microrobots into eye. So a quick explanation of the presentation. First, I will start by introducing the targeted application, then describe the development that we have done. So first, simple manipulation system, and then the novel tracking system associated. And of course, I will go through the result and the outcome for this system. So our aim is to provide new treatment for patients suffering from eye pathology. So for example, one of these pathologies are actually age-related macular degeneration. So it's affecting the macular, which, if I can have the laser, okay, which is affecting the macula. The macula is part of the retina, so back to the eyes of the patients. It's about 5 millimeters long, but it is responsible for our central vision, most of our color vision, and also the fine detail of what we see. So about 3% of the US population are actually suffering from macular degeneration. And the gold standard for the treatment are actually injection into the eye of drug, which is the number 5 method. But there is some side effects to this injection. First of all, there is sometimes serious eye infection. There is increased eye pressure, as well as retinal detachment. That's why drug delivery remains a huge challenge in this field, and many solutions are being developed to address it. One of this solution is based on magnetic manipulation. So magnetic manipulation system are based on electromagnet that will help control, will do the control of the movement of the microrobots into the eye of the patient. This is actually a wireless navigation, and you can miniaturize the microrobots down to micrometers size, which make it a perfect fit for ocular surgery. As you can see here, it's the injection, subretinal injection of drug that has been done while using magnetic manipulation. So this is the injection in between the layer of the retina. It's a really interesting new drug delivery method because it will target the spot directly, and I have a blank. Okay, it will target this spot directly. Okay, so the treatment will be more effective because less drug and also less injection required. Okay, so one challenge remains for magnetic manipulation, which is actually the localization and the visualization of the microrobot during the procedures into the eyes. There is no possibility of optical tracking, mainly because there is no line of sight. Most of the patients have some opacity on the lens and the cornea. And with the bulky setup that you see here, this is also not possible to bring any optical computed tomography or other system, ionizing imaging. So to address this challenge, we developed a tracking method based on an array of magnetic sensors. And it's also called magnetic field camera. Okay, so as I said, first of all, to validate our concept, we have developed a simple model for the manipulation system. So you can see here the Millirobot or millimagnet in our case, which is placed in the center of the container onto a platform. We have the magnetic field camera that are under the container, And the container is surrounded by 4 air coils, which will mimic our electromagnet for the real size system. We also have a USB microscope, which is placed on top of the setup and will act as a reference for the tracking of the position and the orientation. This reference will then be compared to our magnetic tracking method to check the performances. Okay, here is the developed magnetic field camera. It's a camera composed of 64 sensors in 8x8 arrangement. The sensors are 3D anisotropic magnetoresistive sensor. They're actually the best in class in their category and of course available on the market. Due to their submillimetric size, we were able to develop a high density camera with a spacing of 2 millimeters in between each sensor for a final tracking area of 14 millimeter by 14 millimeter. We also took into consideration this specification to design our air coils. So the goal was to generate enough field to steer our millimagnet without saturating our magnetic sensor. To do so, we performed simulation based on finite element methods. And from the simulation, we extracted the parameters of our coil. And as you can see on this small video, we were able to fully navigate our Millirobot over the tracking area. Okay. As the optical tracking is really our point of reference for the calculation era of the noble tracking method, we have to be, of course, sure of its performance. So how did we implement the optical tracking system? We first put a grid of a known geometry at the bottom of the container. We applied an off transformation, which will detect our line and so reconstruct the pattern of the grid. And finally, we have the conversion factor from pixel to millimeter. We also perform a binary thresholding out of the red channel of our microscope images. That's why we actually painted in red our Millirobot, is to be able to extract it. And after label analysis, we obtain the orientation and position of our Millirobot. Okay, now our setup is ready and we can work on the magnetic tracking method and develop the algorithm related to it. So, from the measurements of the magnetic field camera, we only looked at BZ and BAPS value. This is enough for our tracking. So as you can see, we can recognize the south pole and north pole of the millimagnet, as well as roughly the shape of the millimagnet itself. The images are quite good, but we wanted to push it a little bit further. So we applied a linear interpolation and increased the resolution by 32 by 32 pixels for the matrix. So this is quite beautiful magnetic field images, actually. So let's start with the position calculation first. We looked at 2 pixels group, which are the low absolute BZ value, which are in green in this image, and the high BAPS value, which are in red. We performed the intersection of these 2 regions to finally obtain the region of interest, which will be used to calculate the position. The position is calculated as the centroid of this region of interest. For the orientation calculation, we are also looking at some pixel groups, which are either the high BZ value or the low BZ value. It will depend on which pole is dominant in your images. In this case, the dominant pole is north pole, so we will look at the high BZ value. So this is actually this region that we obtain. We are calculating the centroid of this region again, and finally the orientation is the vector in between the previously calculated position and the new centroid. So to validate our algorithm, we took over 100 position equally distributed on our tracking area. And we obtain an error of about 0.5 millimeter for the position and about 5 degrees for the orientation. We also investigate over restricted area, which is the same set of data, except that we are removing all of the positions that are at the edges of the tracking area. We saw that there is some improvement, but it's not significant, which means that even if we have a position at the border and less information due to not that much sensor close by, the precision, the performances are still good. So to conclude, magnetic field camera is a novel and compact tracking system that could be implemented into a magnetic manipulation setup. The precision for both the position and the orientation are quite promising. And we are now looking for the implementation, of course, in 3D. So there is possibilities. One of them is the stacking of 2 magnetic cameras on top of each other, and then looking at the detection of the gradient of the magnetic field. Okay, I would like to thank quickly my colleagues that, of course, worked with me. And I was amazed that there is actually a giant eye in Dallas. So I'm encouraging you, of course, to go there. And actually, I was thinking maybe I should scale up my method and try with the 30-meter eyes. But anyway, thank you for listening to my presentation. And the floor is open for any questions.